Hello and welcome back to the podcast, bros. As always, it's me, Avizraj Sumargi.
And it's me, Ashwal Sumargi, back in the house.
Yeah. And we're back again with a bang. It feels like we haven't shot in ages, Ashwal. What's going on? Huh?
I mean, after that Ant-Man review, it feels like, we've been lost, but we're back.
But back with a banger episode again. And today we are going to be covering what, Ashwal?
Sports.
Yes, sports. And Champions League is back. Champions League has been fun. Premier League has been fun for a while. La Liga and all these other sport events. Formula One has been back. So it's going to be fun talking about all of these things. And I hope you guys enjoy what we have to offer. So Ashwal, lead us in.
Yeah, lots of things to cover in terms of football and the other sports as well.
Yeah.
So let's kick things off with the Champions League.
Woo!
Yeah. The champions.
Oh my days. It always gives me goosebumps whenever I listen to that, like the anthem. Oh,
the anthem is
such a good one.
So yeah, Champions League round of 16 action about to be wrapped up, and the first leg, with all the first leg interesting fixtures, now we have the second leg to talk about.
Yeah.
So we kicked things off last Wednesday with Chelsea versus Dortmund, and the first leg score was obviously 1-0. Dortmund won the home game.
Yeah.
But now again, when it comes to Stamford Bridge, it's a whole different story. And Chelsea overturned this score with a 2-0 win. So the aggregate was 2-1, and it was a pretty good performance, after a long time from Chelsea.
From viewers following at home, Ashwal is a Chelsea stan for this season.
Yeah. Being a Chelsea fan for this season, it's been bad. But now I think we can see some signs of hope from the team. And it was a 2-0 win. Sterling scored, assist from Chilwell. It was a good goal. And then again, Havertz, the marksman for Chelsea in the
guy
Champions
who scored
League.
The winner in the Champions League final, huh? Kai Havertz.
Yeah. So he actually missed a penalty in the beginning, but then there was this problem, where the Dortmund players came in the D box. So there was a retake, and he scored again. So it was a 2-0 win, and
kind of an okayish game, not something to talk home about, was it? Because even the first leg was like, of course, I didn't see the game, by the way. Ashwal did see the game. But watching the highlights from the first game and the second game, you could see that the highlights were kind of
Yeah.
So
not one to remember.
Yeah.
It was an okay-ish, like you said. But I did see, from the last leg, I did see Chelsea's defense improve with my boy Reece James back in the field. He did miss out in the World Cup, and that was bad.
But it was Ashwal's call that Reece James was going to be England's right back, by the way. Sorry, right back, right? Yeah. Somehow Trent got the job anyway.
Yeah.
And he is coming back from a long-term injury. Yeah,
because
long-term
James was injured. So yeah, it was good to see him back, and it was an okayish performance. But then, I think it's turning. The wheel for Chelsea is starting to turn. So
okay. So still 10th in the Premier League, Ashok? Chelsea?
Let's hold the Premier League for a while.
All right. And go on.
We go off to Benfica, where they did trash Club Brugge 5-1. That was the second leg score. The first leg score was 2-1. They did win in both the legs, and the aggregate score was 7-1. Quite thrashing, and something you expect from Benfica.
I mean, kind of, right? Like Benfica are like a staple team in the Champions League, and like they are rated the highest rated team by the Football Focus, right? So that means that you can see that like in average they do tend to play really good games, And I was also going to talk about this. Let me just pull it up, yeah. So Benfica did top the table.
Oh yeah.
So that was amazing. And then Benfica in the previous fixture as well with Club Brugge. How do we pronounce it?
Yeah, butchering the name, yeah.
Yeah, so even that one, they won 2-0. So you could see that like Benfica are doing fairly well, and they always seem to be doing well until they don't, right?
Yeah.
And then they somehow
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, and they crash out of the Champions League as always. But yeah, the rating is from the FootMob app, it's 7.37. And that's the highest amongst any other team.
Okay.
So that's pretty impressive as well. So Benfica are clear into the quarterfinals. And let's
So after the Benfica, there were only two games in the last Wednesday fixtures, and now we move on to the next day, Thursday. That was last
The
Thursday.
most boring game of the Champions League, you know.
Yeah, quite disappointing. It
Even
was
the first game was quite disappointing.
Yeah.
And both team, I don't know what's
I mean,
going
I
on
think
with
whenever
them, man.
these two teams, we're talking about Bayern and PSG, obviously, and I think whenever these two teams meet up,
Tottenham. No. I was talking about Tottenham and
AC Milan.
AC Milan. Yeah, those were like, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, Bayern PSG will get to it, but like those
Yeah.
are more nerve-wracking games, you know.
Yeah.
But the game like AC Milan versus Tottenham, it felt like it didn't feel like a very professional Champions League style of game, you know, which was kind of come on, man. Like Tottenham's been struggling in the league as well,
And
you know.
I mean, AC Milan has not been doing like Inter has been.
Yeah.
I mean, Napoli has been charting the the
Top of
table.
the charts, yeah.
So yeah, not a good game. In the first leg, it was 1-0. AC Milan won, and it was scoreless match in the second leg.
Yeah.
So on
Kind of
aggregate,
disappointing, yeah.
AC Milan goes through the quarterfinals. That was quite disappointing from Tottenham.
And the aggregate 1-0.
Yeah.
Oh my days. 2 legs and just a single goal, huh?
Yeah. And another boring match, you got me confused there. Another boring match I was talking about was Bayern and PSG. That was also boring. I mean, whenever these two teams meet, even in the Champions League final, I think it was 2021.
Yeah.
It was the score was 1-0, and it was quite a boring game.
Yeah.
Finals are always nervy, but then
Yeah, I think the thing is like PSG's attacking is so nerve-wracking, that like you always have to prepare for it. So Bayern always takes the back step, especially preparing for PSG or like even some of the other teams like Real Madrid, because they cannot play like they play in Bundesliga, no? So it tends to like always feel like Bayern is not doing the best, but Bayern tends to get the results, and when they do trash, PTSD,
They trash, yeah. Oh my God.
PTSD.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the first leg, Bayern and PSG. Bayern won 1-0. Obviously, PSG could not do anything. I
At
think
PSG's home.
at PSG's home, yeah,
Yeah.
that too. And I mean, I think the problem starts in the defense and in the midfield as well. Bayern are just too much to handle for PSG.
PSG, I don't feel like they're a very stable team, top to bottom. I think they're very offensive heavy,
Yeah.
and midfield and defense. Sometimes when you look at PSG playing some of the French league games, it's like, and it's a very common saying that you play to the opponent, right? Like whenever the game is going on, then you play to the opponent, and
Yeah.
PSG always tends to play to the opponent. And in the French league, the opponents are shit.
Yeah.
Pardon my language, but yeah.
I mean, not a great show from PSG in the Champions League as well. I mean, they don't have a style of play. Bayern is like a structured team, and they've got quality like all over the field. PSG, they lacked serious talent in midfield. They cannot hold the ball. They don't, play possession. They don't play offensive. I don't know what they play. All they look to do is pass it to Messi or through ball to Mbappe and all that. So yeah, they did lose 1-0 in the first leg. Coman scored, just like the Champions League finals. I think Coman did score in the Champions League final. And then in the second leg, it was 2-0. It was actually Bayern did produce good, because good moments in the game because PSG were trying to attack. And then there was this moment in the 37th minute, delete. He saved a goal from the line. I mean, last ditch defending.
Yeah.
So that was a good one.
That's like a defensive score, by the way.
Yeah.
Like for a defender, it's like almost scoring a goal when you do that kind of a save. Just like
that
put the
was-
team on your back and represent.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was an incredible.
So that was a defensive heroics on the Bayern side, but in the 68th minute, Verratti with the defensive lacking error. Yeah, he did miss out. He gave the ball away, and then Bayern capitalized, and Choupo-Moting scored. So yeah, that was it. And then in the last minutes of the game, 88th minute, Cancelo, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Cancelo with a great run. Gnabry scores. Open and shut game. Bayern through the quarterfinals.
There are rumors that Cancelo will come to Barcelona. Are you hyped or?
That is a good rumor to have in the market.
Apparently, he lacks dressing room discipline. So that is the thing.
But he's a good player, isn't he?
Yeah.
He can.
So, yeah, but it depends, no? Like, so for example, Pep tries to keep a very strong hand on the team, right? So he doesn't want any one of his like players trying to act very oversmart.
Yeah.
And Bayern being a very cultural team, they will also try to keep the culture intact, you know. So even within the first month of Cancelo being on loan to Bayern were already like, we're not going to keep him. You know, so you can see that there is something up with Cancelo. And I don't know if it's going to be the best signing for Barcelona, but he is a genuinely great player. So I think that would be a great addition. And it'll be, I think Xavi should be able to handle him.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
So that was it for the last week's Champions League second leg. And now this week, again, we kick things off with what a great win for Man City.
Yeah.
And Erling Haaland. Oh my God.
5 goals.
Yeah.
5 goals. And all tap-ins, to be fair. And penalties also included. But yeah.
So
it was like a crazy performance. 56 minutes in, he already had 5 goals. He did miss a few chances in the first half. 3 that I remember. But yeah, more in the first half. And Pep took him out. 5 goals, 56 minutes.
And we know why he took him
Yeah.
out. You know, Pep loves Messi. And he did not want...
Yeah, but wouldn't it have been incredible to see a player not just score 6 goals in the Champions League, but 6 goals ever? How often do you see it? When have you last seen it? Have you ever seen it? Right? Like all the stack line goes up to 5 for players in the leagues, in the Champions League. And this could have been the opportunity.
So it was a 7-0 win against RB Leipzig. That was the second leg. And the first leg, it was a 1-1 draw.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Pep. You know, not like, it's not a recent, like, you know, it's not news. But, you know, even in the old days, like, you know, some years ago, Pep always had the advantage in the second leg. You could not, you know, win against Pep in the second leg. I remember in the Barca days where Barca, in that era when Messi, you know, chipped, that we won the first leg, but then, you know, we lost the second leg.
Yeah. I think it was 1-0.
Yeah, something like that. But we did go through, Barca did go through on aggregate, but yeah. So that was it. You know, Haaland scored 5 goals, Gundogan with 1.
And De Bruyne with a world-class banger from like way outside the box, man. I think it was like a 25, 28 yards strike. Killer, man. Killer. And top corner. Rattled. It was an incredible performance on Man City's end. Of course, it was sloppy as well. I mean, once a few goals went in the first half, I think it was 3 goals or something, then RB Leipzig were shook.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much like the Liverpool-Man United game. You know?
It was literally like that. 7-0. Yeah. And so that was it, you know, as of now. That's it as of now for the Champions League round of 16. First, both the legs completed. We have 2 fixtures to go. I think they play tonight. Yes.
Yeah. Do you think... Okay, by the way, the 2 fixtures are going to be Real Madrid, Liverpool, and Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yes.
Not trying to butcher the name. And Napoli, right? So, any chance that Liverpool comes back in Santiago Bernabeu? 5-2 is the aggregate for the time being.
That's the, you know, important word here. Santiago Bernabeu. It's going to be tough. And I sincerely hope Liverpool turn this over. Because it's Madrid, man. Who wants Madrid to win 15 Champions League? I don't want to say.
I don't think they will win a 15. But you never know, right?
You never know.
And all the allegations coming out, yes, Barca is included in it, and Real Madrid has been suspiciously quiet. There's something up, man. And I've been saying this for ages, right? That there has to be some sort of corruption on Real Madrid's end. And of course, you might say it's bias. And if things come out about Barcelona, I'll be willing to agree with it. But I've been saying this about Real Madrid, right? Like some of the tactical fouls that they do, which should warrant them a yellow card or like 2 yellow cards and get the player sent off, like some significant decisions in the game, it never happened.
Yeah.
You know? And Barca's name has been smeared, but Real Madrid, who are like the biggest rivals of Barcelona, suspiciously quiet. Why is that, do you think?
There's something up.
When Barca were struggling with finances, Real Madrid were loud as ever, you know, and somehow now they're quiet. So,
earlier you told me about Casemiro.
Yeah.
We remember watching him in El Clasicos, and the amount of fouls that he committed against Messi, right?
Yeah.
He used to man-mark Messi. He did a good job, but Messi obviously got the better of him. But he should have, you know, natural or yellow card or a red card, you know, he used to like
multiple times. And in the 7 years he played in La Liga,
no
no
Red
red
cards,
cards. You know, and then 7 games, just 7 games. I think I'm forgetting the number of games, but
this
few
season,
games in,
one
few-
season in Man U,
and already 2 red cards.
2 red cards.
So does that say something? Something to
should,
think
yeah.
about, viewers back at home.
So,
Or are we just talking conspiracy theories here?
maybe.
Oh my
So yeah,
days.
that's it with the Champions League. We've got 2 fixtures left, and that will decide who will get to play the quarterfinals, and it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Quarterfinals, obviously, it'll be interesting. And let's take a step. Let's go a step down.
Yeah.
Europa League.
Which league?
Europa League.
Oh, is that a league?
Yeah. I mean,
To be fair,
So-
Barca did get knocked out in this league, so I don't want to make too much of it. But anyways, go
yeah.
on.
So the important fixtures in the Europa, big names: Arsenal and Sporting CP. Obviously, this is the round of 16 first leg. They haven't played the second leg yet, and in the first leg, Arsenal 2, Sporting CP 2.
Two, yeah. So it was a tough game, I think, and Arsenal's been in good form recently, of late, right? And then not just that, like the defense has been able to score for Arsenal, you know. So not just the attacking prowess, and Gabriel Jesus has been missing for ages, and still they've been able to cope, you know. So I think Arsenal should take.
I think
this
he's
game.
back.
Are you? I'm not sure. I'm not.
I think he's
uncertain.
back. Yeah, I mean, I do not
But yeah,
focus a lot in the Europa. Who does? But yeah, so the score was 2-2. And on Friday, the other big name that played the game was Man U and Real Betis, and Man U won 4-1. Obviously, Rashford, who's in hot form,
What was the score again?
4-1.
Ah, okay. 4-1, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rashford did score. Anthony also got in the score sheet. Fernandes, Bruno, your favorite player, right?
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes.
I hate him, man. Such a crybaby.
He got in the score sheet, and I actually liked, Weghorst or whatever,
Weghorst,
Yeah,
yeah,
Weghorst. He did get in the score sheet, and I was happy for him because I did like the signing. They did. It was actually a panic buy, and I think it's paying off. So yeah, that was it for Europa League.
He seems to be like a tactical forward as well, right? Like somewhat of a defensive.
Somewhat of a Griezmann.
Yeah. I wouldn't say Griezmann.
Yeah.
But because he's tall, no? So he's still a poacher, but he has defensive duties as well, right? Like he does make because Griezmann is very good at what he does. No?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put him that high up. But Weghorst, the reason why also they bought Weghorst was the Argentina game and Netherlands game.
yeah.
He was the guy who scored both the goals. So I think that also helped, and then the panic situation, but it's somewhat paying off. In the Premier League, he hasn't been able to do too much. So
And the thing about, Weghorst also made an impression in the World Cup. The other guy who made an impression in the World Cup was Enzo Fernandez, and Chelsea paid 100 million or
110.
something. Oh, yeah, 110. So not as much, it's not paying off as
I
much.
mean, they spent money left, right, and center, and now they are already thinking of replacing Graham Potter. And for whom? What? Another, the guy who just Brighton hired, they're hoping to cop that guy as well.
Yeah.
And they got Graham Potter from Brighton.
I don't know. They have something against Brighton, I guess.
It's an American owner, An American generally tends to be very smart people.
Yeah. So that was it for Europe. Let's, take a deep dive in the United Kingdom. And by that, I mean Premier League.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what's up with the Premier League?
Premier League's been fun. It's been weird as ever. And somehow, Liverpool lost to Bournemouth.
A week after winning 7-0 against their biggest rivals, Man U.
Yeah. And that was what a game that was. Huh?
Oh, yeah. That was instant classic.
And to be fair, I support Man City and Ashwal supports whom?
Chelsea.
Were we just dissing Chelsea and the owner
On the
recently? But yeah, so that's who we support. And for this game, somehow Ashwal got emotionally involved, the 7-0 game. For some reason, he had his heart set on Man United to win.
I mean, one could not expect this coming. Man U is in good form as well. They are in top 4. Yeah, and Liverpool not in top 4. So, you would expect Man U to win.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
What happened?
Anfield and Liverpool. I don't know what happened.
I mean, it was a shocker of a game. I don't know if we want to trash Man U that much, but
Yeah.
the first half was quite okay. I think both teams were getting their like things as they strategized. They were able to play out their strategies properly. And 1-0 going into the first half, second half, and it was a thrashing. And then we all thought, especially him and me, we were like, okay, I think there is a chance that Liverpool can come back against Real Madrid in the Champions League second leg. And then this is what they do.
And that was a historical moment because that was Man U's biggest defeat in Premier League history. In 92-year history of the Premier League, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. That was their biggest defeat.
And this has been kind of a trend with Liverpool throughout the season, right? A few good games, a bad game. A few good games, a bad
Especially
game.
with big teams, they do good. But, with the...
I think they defeated Man City as well.
Yeah.
Earlier on in the season. So you can see, right?
So that was sad for Liverpool fans. And now again, Chelsea...
And
Leicester.
I think wait. I think Billing. Oh, it was 28 minutes in there. 28 minutes because I forget there was one. It's been 2 weeks back to back that there have been a goal scored in the first minute of the game.
First minute of the game?
Yeah, first minute, and I think it was Billing in last week as well. I think it was it against Tottenham? I forget. And then this week again, there was someone who scored within the first minute of the game. So It's been kind of interesting as well. But anyways, let's go on to the second game that we want to talk about. Leicester versus Chelsea.
Yeah, after the Bournemouth-Liverpool match, it was Leicester versus Chelsea, and it was Leicester's home, and Chelsea won 3-1.
Yep. And just to put this all in context, Leicester is 16th in the league.
Yeah.
And they've lost the last 4 out of the 5 games they've played. So
but it's a significant win, 3 points, no matter what.
Of course. Yeah. 3 points is 3 points.
And the good thing I wanted to tell you was Chilwell. He did
Ben
assist in the Champions League game, and he did. I think he's been injured for a while, James and Chilwell both, and it's been. I think he's played a couple of games now. He's back, and he's back with a bang. Havertz again and Kovacic.
Kovacic, what do you think? Good signing, bad signing? Because now he's had a long spell in Chelsea.
Yeah. I would say moderate, because at times he has stepped up and he can be a good holding midfielder, more to the defensive side. But, not that useful, I think, in Chelsea's setup.
Every once in a while, we do see some sparks, right? Where he creates some amazing passes or like he will score,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a inconsistent
But I
performance.
think, it has been, good, for him, good spell for him at Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I think the Chelsea fans adore him as well. So, yeah, that was it. 3 points for Chelsea away from home. And, I think...
Chelsea 3. But go on.
Leicester 1. So, yeah. And now
You would have said Leicester.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So now we move on to North London. Is it Tottenham? North London?
Yeah.
North London, where, Tottenham at home trash Nottingham Forest. Let's not say trash, but they win easily against Nottingham Forest 3-1. And Harry Kane, their main poacher, the man, the top scorer of Tottenham's history, the legend, Kane scores 2 goals. One in the 19th minute and one in the 35th. Penalty in the 35th. So Nottingham scores late on. I think that was, just a consolation. So that
what was hilarious about this game?
Yeah.
So before the game, Richarlison, he came out and he was kind of thrashing Tottenham and Antonio Conte, right? He was like, I've been back from injury. The games I played, we've won. I don't know why I'm not getting more playing time, this, that, and all. And then next day, Conte comes for his Tottenham versus Nottingham Forest press conference. And Conte is like, he's right. Like, the games he's played, we've won. But he's also had injuries, one. And then Richarlison also said that he was having a shit season because he wasn't getting a lot of time to play and all that. And Conte comes and Conte is like, yeah, I agree with Richarlison 100%. He is having a shit season. He was injured, he hasn't scored in this many games. And I agree with him. I don't think he was taking a shot at me. He's taking a shot at himself, And then the game starts. I think 3 minutes in, Richarlison scores, right? He takes his shirt off, goes in front of the stand, the dugout, and then celebrates, It's VAR ruled offside. The goal doesn't count. All that for nothing.
Yeah.
It was so hilarious. Oh my
It
days.
must suck when that happens. Especially when you have the celebration all the way through.
Yeah, that was a fun moment. Because I'd followed this through, and I was like, oh my days. Like when it was ruled VR offside, I was like, and there was so much anger in that celebration as well, and it was justifiable at the moment. But as soon as it was ruled offside, it just looked silly. That he was celebrating.
And
it
normally,
like
as a
that.
player, you cannot take a dig at Conte that easily.
Yeah, Conte, he bites back, man.
Yeah.
He's a crazy one. But I like him. I like Antonio Conte, man.
Yeah. After the Tottenham win, then we move on to the Crystal Palace and Man City game. And
Yeah.
this game, I mean, as a Chelsea fan, like because I have a thing against Man City, that was irritating, man. Like because Man City, obviously, they are having this problem with the Haaland and all that. The Haaland not being utilized to the fullest. But now, what can you say? Because he just recently scored 5 goals.
Yeah.
So, but
39 goals in the season, highest goal scoring season for a Man City player ever.
Oh yeah, he already broke Aguero's record
Yeah.
for the PL goals in a single season.
Yeah.
And also one interesting thing, he's the youngest and the fastest player to reach 30 Champions League goals in 25 games.
Which
Yeah.
is insane, man.
So
Insane.
yeah, I mean,
But this game was, to be fair, the first half, Man City was trying everything,
Yeah.
and Crystal Palace's defense somehow survived. Second half was kind of like the thing that you were saying, right? Like all the players weren't being utilized as much, but first half, Man City was playing like this was like almost like peak Barcelona. All the passes were matching. Everything was working, but in the final third, the finishing was not coming. And it was not just to blame Haaland or like someone, but it was just like it felt like an off day. And then second half came in, and then like you were like, okay, now we see the storyline Man City of this year, where it's like, you don't know what Man City you're gonna get, whether they're gonna perform to their like fullest and score multiple goals, or it's just gonna be a 1-0, 2-0 scraping win, And then of course the simple penalty that they get, Haaland and penalties also. This is something that I've been impressed about. So much confidence in that man when he takes penalties.
he's clinical, man.
Yeah,
He's
it's fun to see him play, man.
Yeah, so exactly, the Man City kept hammering, and at last Palace, they gave away a penalty and Haaland converted it. As easy as that. So yeah, again we get back to that was all the Saturday's fixtures.
Yeah.
So now Sunday again, a fun day for Arsenal.
Yeah.
3-0 win against Fulham. I mean, this is why I think, referring to the Man City game, this is why I think, Arsenal are actually going to take it away. Because I think sometimes Man City, even though what a good team they are, they have a good team and everything. But sometimes I think they just, it just doesn't fit sometimes. And I think Arsenal this season are fully prepped. I mean, obviously they've got Man City to play again and some of the big games yet to come. And I think they've got 10, 11 games more. Anything can happen, but I still think Arsenal will take it away this season.
Okay, so for this point, I'd also like to add that, like, yeah, Man City doesn't seem to fit, but Man City does still end up winning the games.
Yeah,
so that is also something that comes with Man City as well. And they have been champions for ages, so they do tend to have that confidence that at the very least we'll score one, And for Arsenal, there have been some games where they have slipped. But then again, this is what I'm saying, right? Like, I think it was Martinelli that scored one of the goals in the 3-0 win. And it was like they cruised in that game. Like, I think Bukayo Saka was one of the scorers,
Oh, yeah. So the score sheet goes like this. Gabriel, he scores in 21st
Martinelli,
minute. Martinelli does score right after 26th. And Captain Odegaard.
Yeah.
He's been crucial this season. He scores right before the halftime.
My shout for the PL player of the season. But this is what I was also going to say, right? Arsenal could have got so many more goals. I think 3 minutes in, Bukayo Saka had already scored one, but VAR ruled offside, So, and there were multiple... This has been something that's been bothering me, by the way. Some of the VAR checks for handball or like penalty calls, even if they're blatant, they don't get it. Like, I don't understand. If we're going to talk about this Man U Southampton game, the ball came in. The defender, he's trying to head the ball. He's halfway lying on the floor, but the ball hits his hand. Even though he's trying to take it away, it hits his hand inside the D box, bro. Like, this should be a penalty. How is that not ruled a penalty with the fourth official checking the whole thing? VAR checking. Like, what's going on?
And not only this game, I think there have been a couple more games we've watched recently that have, neglected these calls.
And such blatant calls, right? It's been weird, man. I don't know.
Yeah, but all that aside, a good day for Arsenal fans, 3-0 win.
So 27 games both now played by Man City and Arsenal. And Arsenal still leads by 5 points. It's not a lot, because there are still 11 more games to go. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good finish.
Yeah, good finish. Just like, the recent finishes, just a point difference or a goal difference and all that.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. And Man U Southampton, again, after the shocking defeat against Liverpool, I think they've, stepped down their game. They've drawn against Southampton. And Southampton, where are they in the table?
Bottom of the league.
Yeah, bottom of the league. Literally.
Yes.
And they've drawn against Man U. Yeah. So not a pretty good sight for Man U fans.
And do you remember when Man U was in that form, when they were winning every game? All of a sudden, Erik ten Hag was the king of the world.
Yeah.
All the media was hyping him up. And somehow he was one of the best managers that's ever been, And now the media is all lost. And somehow Man U is in shambles. Just 2 games. Because of 2 games.
Yeah.
British media, man.
So fickle, can change sides. And so another surprise, let's talk about Newcastle now. Newcastle did win 2-1 against Wolves. And they have surprisingly...
Did you say oil? Huh?
Yeah,
you said Saudi.
Yeah.
Okay. Go on.
They have this season 25 games in.
25 games.
Yeah, Newcastle top 5.
And if Newcastle wins both their game, 26 and 27, they've got a better goal difference than Man U.
Also, they've got games in hand.
Yeah, they've got 2 games in hand, So they could potentially finish 3rd in the league.
Yeah. I mean, imagine the money that comes with it and imagine the money they already have. Yeah, so good, surprising and interesting.
But this is something that I appreciate about Newcastle, and I did not appreciate this about Man City early on. Man City, once it was taken over, they just started buying players left, right, and center. Whereas Newcastle, they've kind of bought players. I think they bought 11 players last season, but not hyped up players. These were good caliber players that could fit in a good team. And this is a pretty sturdy and strong team, So I do like it.
I think the Saudi owners have learned the lesson. The same with PSG. You cannot go on and buy stars after stars, and that does not give you trophies. You have to get the team chemistry. You have to build it right from from scratch. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and Eddie Howe has proved, the coach of Newcastle, has proved that he does deserve to be recognized as one of the better managers. Oh, by the way, this is what I was going to say. Last month, Erik ten Hag was manager of the month, by the way. You know what I mean? Oh my God. Anyways, let's go on. Keep it moving.
So yeah, that is it with the Premier League. And the table looks interesting as of now. 11, 12, somewhat 11 or 12 games to go. And the season is nearing its end. And, we've got a show at our hands.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a tight one for the first and second. Third, fourth, fifth, it's still up in the air, even till 6th, right? We don't know what's going to happen. And there is outside shout for Brighton as well. Brighton, Fulham. They're doing pretty well as well. Brentford last season, I think by the mid-season, they were still top 4.
Yeah. I mean, Brentford, they started with a bang. They won 4-0 against Man U.
Yeah. The season started good. And we also have to give, I think, shout out to West Ham. Give me a second, yeah? Sean Dyche, I think that's the
coach.
Yeah, coach. Was it West Ham? Or I forget. Who is Sean Dyche the coach of?
Is it Everton?
Oh, Everton. Yeah, it's Everton.
He was the coach of West Ham.
They were in the relegation zone when Sean Dyche took over from Frank Lampard, right? And now they're 15th. They're somewhat clear. Yeah, they're somewhat clear of the relegation zone. Somewhat, I wouldn't say all the way up, but Everton has managed to eke out good results, So that's been something fun as well. Let me also give you the last Everton. I think they won the last game they played. Yeah, see, against Brentford. Right? Brentford is in top 10.
Yeah.
And they were able to beat Brentford. Not just that, even the game before, I think, 2-2 Nottingham Forest, but the game before that, okay, that's Arsenal. But I think they won against a good team. Aston Villa, they lost, but they won against one good team.
Yeah, they won against Leeds. They're right there.
Leeds, and like a big name team as well, So I forget who. But
Yeah, there was this Liverpool Everton right there.
yeah, but it's 2-0 lost.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't prove
yeah,
your
I'm
point,
trying
yeah.
to prove my point. But yeah, Arsenal. See, Arsenal lost that game, no? So yeah, so that was the game that I was talking about. I think it was his Sondash's first game in charge, and then he was able to beat Arsenal. So you could see that like Everton is doing kind of well as well. So this has been fun.
So yeah, I mean, Premier League has given us interesting endings many times. So we expect the same this season. Arsenal and Man City go for the title. So yeah, and now let's talk about our favorite league,
Yeah.
La Liga. I mean, I just want to talk about La Liga.
Yeah.
Barca leading the way with 9 points
Clear
clear
at the top.
on top of
Yeah.
Real Madrid. So yeah, I mean, Saturday Real Madrid did play, did host Espanyol. Our, Espanyol
They
is
were
our
losing, man. Somehow Real Madrid, even if they're losing, they end up coming on top.
They come back, yeah.
Somehow.
It's happened so many times this season as well. And so obviously they concede first. They've been conceding first for so long. And they come back with 3 goals and they win. So, yeah.
Barca also has been having a little bit of a tough time in the sense that the past couple of games, they've just scraped a win. So 1-0, 1-0s,
And there was this short period of time where Lewandowski was out as well. So, yeah, there were irregularities in the team. But on Monday, we did play away Barca, referring as we, like, we did host, Athletic Club did host us. We did win 1-0. Rafinha was the clutch player who came in and scored.
Yeah.
I think right before halftime.
Yeah, I think 45 plus 3 or something like that.
And, Barca just scraped through, but then it was enough to keep the 9-point lead.
And this time it looks like finally my favorite keeper, Marc-Andre ter Stegen, is going to get the Golden Gloves for La Liga.
And getting the recognition all over.
19 clean sheets, right?
And he has the most clean sheets all over Europe.
Yeah, in 25 games. That's insane. Just 6 games where he's conceded.
It's just that, in the recent seasons, past couple of seasons, Barca's defense sucked. So, he was not getting the recognition.
Sucked what, Ashwal? They sucked ass.
Yeah.
Of course they did. Oh my days. Some of the embarrassing losses, it's like war veterans PTSD for us, where sometimes I wake up at night all sweaty, remembering that 8-2. Oh my, 8-1.
8-2.
8-2, okay. Yeah. Doesn't help a lot, but still, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, yeah, good, feeling good for Ter Stegen, and we are looking forward to this end, and I hope, obviously, I'm confident that Barca will finish as La Liga leaders, and we've already got that other trophy in the bag, Xavi's first.
Yeah. I forget the name. It's not Copa del Rey.
It's not Copa del Rey. I think it's the El Clasico. It's the UEFA, the winners of Copa del Rey and the winners of La Liga play.
Okay.
So yeah, whatever that, we did win that against Real Madrid.
Yeah, and of course, if you want to guess who is on the top 3 of La Liga, as always,
Barca, Real Madrid, and Atletico, respectively.
Oh, it's Atletico. I thought it was going to be someone else as well. Of course, it is Atletico. It's Barca. 25 games each played by all, and then 65 points Barcelona, 56 points Real Madrid, and Atletico struggling more, 48 points. So yeah, I think this is going to be pretty much how the season ends, with them being the top 3. And we have to give a shout out to Real Sociedad, who has had a better season of late. They were struggling the last couple of seasons, but they have managed to get 45 points on the board with 25 games played. So they could maybe challenge Atletico, but yeah, it doesn't seem like anything will change. That's pretty much it for the La Liga table talk. And what else have we got, Ashwal?
So in the footballing world recently, there's been this, news, or, there's been this thing that's going on, and it concerns Gary Lineker.
Yeah.
And that was pretty bad. Obviously, I don't know about you, but I do side with Gary Lineker in this one. So what happened was, would you like to explain?
So basically, Gary Lineker does match of the day. He's been doing it since 1997, I think, right? And he has this is so match of the day is basically a BBC special where they show highlights of the week's game and they do commentary and all that, right? And then they'll talk about or like they'll dissect how things went out and all that and all. And in general, it's Gary Lineker has been like a staple of this, and he not just that, like Gary Lineker is one of the most beloved like football legends of England.
Yeah.
Right? He was one of those pioneers who had the guts to go to a different league at that time. Like I think this was the early 80s, late 70s and all that. So he did go and play for Barcelona.
Yeah.
He had a good like spell in Barcelona. So we will also put pictures for you guys for reference who Gary Lineker is. By the way, I like his post-match breakdowns and all that a lot, you know. So one of my favorite pundits, you know, and this is not the Hindu pundit. Yeah. This is more the commentary pundit. But yeah, so I really like him. And BBC tends to have this. So BBC is an organization that's run by the government.
The government.
Right? So there are like, and BBC, of course, has multiple segments to it, right? So like someone can be political commentator, someone can be a sport commentator, someone can be like just food and household things and all that. So like there are multiple aspects to it, and you can indulge in the politics somewhat, depending on which aspect of journalism you fall in BBC. But for Gary Lineker and the team, if you're a sports commentator in BBC, you are not allowed to make any political statement in any of your social media platform or any public facing events where you might be called for a chief guest or like just invited to speak on the mic or something. You cannot take any sides because you represent the BBC, right? And BBC is supposed to be the gold standard for journalism throughout the world, right? So there are like multiple things like that placed in, and Gary Lineker had a pretty strong statement, and of course Ashwal said that he agrees with it. But on March 7th, Gary Lineker tweeted that a little bit of a deep dive as well. But so Rishi Sunak, that's the new PM of Britain, right? He was able to beat the cabbage lady. If you guys understand that reference, it's going to be a good one. But yeah, so Rishi Sunak recently came out with this decision to make UK immigration policy tighter and not let a lot of people immigrate into UK, right? And not easily. And understandable, of course, UK and the whole world is struggling with the whole situation. And there might be some racial or like other political aspects to it, but I do not know his full intentions, right? But Gary Lineker was very vocal on his Twitter, or he was chirpy on his Twitter, you know, saying that, good heavens, this is beyond awful, on a video posted on Twitter.
With the accent and all that, yeah.
And he added that there's no huge influx. We take far fewer refugees than any other European countries, right? Major European countries. And Germany is one of the staples for letting immigrants come into their country and work in their country and live in their country, right? So they have been a staple. And the Syrian people that were forced out of their homes when all the attacks was happening in Syria and all that, that was like one of those major things. And so yeah, he added that like they were one of okay, so I'll say the whole tweet first. Then there is no huge influx. We take far fewer refugees than other major European countries. This is just an immeasurable, cruel policy directed at the most vulnerable people in language that is not dissimilar to that used by the Germans in the 1930s. I am out of order. So basically what he's trying to say is that like this kind of immigration policy is what Hitler had in place when Nazi Germany was taking form, taking roots in the early days of Nazi Germany, when he was rallying people, the young generations, to come and work and like, you know, basically bringing back manhood to the German. That's how some people like to put it, not me, by the way. But yeah, so that's what he's saying. And BBC took a swift action against it. So that's why the end part is I am out of order, in the sense that like I'm a sports pundit and I cannot even say anything about this, and I am out of order. So that was the whole shebang. And then BBC came out the next day, and then they were suspending Gary Lineker for a
Yeah,
few
he's not
days.
going to host
Yeah.
the match of the day.
Yeah. So everyone went up in arms. And continue, Ashul, now from me.
So after this, after this step that BBC took, I mean, the journalism world, the sport journalism world, were shook, and they did not take this as a good step, from the BBC, and they did show solidarity to Gary Lineker.
There's also like another thing into this, right? Like, so BBC said that it's non-partition, right? Like, it will not divide, or like it will not be vocal about one party or the other, right?
Yeah, due impartiality. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But their BBC's chairperson, or like one of the higher ranking members of BBC, has been known to fund the Labour Party, and he is one of the chairmen of one of these organizations. Not the main party, but a chairman of an organization that supports these parties, right? So it's like, so the rules do not align same for everyone, right? So like Gary Lineker cannot even say anything about it, but a prominent member of BBC is okay being like a major prominent member of an organization that supports a political group, so like this whole thing went up in arms, and we could understand why people were going crazy about this whole situation.
Yeah, so
right?
so it backfired, basically, and and then there were also a lot of problems started to arise, with like in regards to who will host the match of the day and all, because all of these journalists such as Ian Wright, Alan Shearer, and Micah Richards, these are just the few famous journalists who decided to step out and not do host the shows. So this caused a big problem in the in the journalism thing.
Yeah, because match of the day, like we said, it was a staple.
Yeah.
And
We tune in to watch.
yeah. So we really enjoy it, and we do it illegally, yes, of course, because we do not get that content here in Nepal. But of course, so what happened is, because it's been such a staple, what they had to do was, and all of these people that he just mentioned, they also, in solidarity to Gary Lineker, were like, we are not doing this. And this was very nice to see from, like, because football being a team sport, and all of these becoming a team, like a pundit of a football.
I mean, great footballers. Ian Wright, Alan Shearer,
Michael Richards.
Michael Richards. Oh God, I don't know. Yeah.
But so they were like all a team, and they all took side of Gary Lineker, and then they all stepped out. So BBC had to do an embarrassing thing and just play the highlights for 20 minutes. Generally, it lasts an hour, hour and a half, match of the day, right? But this time around, it was just 20 minutes.
There was no one to host it, and so it backfired on a whole nother level. Fans were pissed off too. Some managers did comment about it. So eventually, BBC reinstated Gary Lineker, and Gary Lineker also tweeted, something. I'm not quoting him, but he said something, I'm happy that we navigated through this, and, all that. So all things are right, I think. And so that was the whole...
So, yeah, basically what BBC did was so Gary Lineker, and we are not quoting him again, right?
Yeah.
Like, so Gary Lineker said that, like, I will not come back to the BBC unless we have a better solution to this, rather than saying that, like, these people cannot comment, but then, like, these people can be politically involved, So they were able to reach a better stance, and all of the journalists now in BBC as a whole will have a say in at least to a certain extent, about politics. Maybe they cannot go full far left or far right, but they can at least make their own political statements. Because this also is kind of interesting, right? Like, if you're working for a company, all of a sudden you lose your identity, and now your identity is what the company is.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting thing as well. So something had to be done, and BBC being BBC and one of the major staple journalism, we have to give them credit as well, because not everyone's perfect. Not everything runs perfectly, but they were able to come to a solution quickly. And Gary Lineker being a man of principle, right? So if he was okay with the negotiation and what the final verdict was, which we still don't know what, they haven't explicitly said what it was, but we can be like, okay, maybe it was something good enough for not just him, but BBC journalist as whole.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good.
So it was,
like,
yeah, that was a pretty, interesting feud between BBC and Gary
Yeah.
Lineker. And Gary Lineker obviously thanked, in a way, he did give his regards to all the ones, all the people who showed solidarity, and stood up with him. So a good ending
Yeah. Yeah,
to a
yeah.
good story.
And now you guys might be thinking, yes, they are doing their winding down voice, calm talks and but F1's back, baby!
He has
Yeah.
been crazy about F1 this past week and
Yeah,
the week
yeah,
before
yeah.
that, and he's been watching all the games. So matches, all the races,
Races, yes,
yeah.
yes.
So he's gonna take you through it.
Yeah, so major fan of Formula One. I've been not like properly tuning into Formula One since childhood, but like one of my uncles, he used to watch Formula One a lot. So I've been a major fan of Formula One forever. And I have a gripe with Formula One right now. For some reason, we cannot watch Formula One live anymore on TV in Nepal. We have to stream it from a different website, which sucks, heart sinking. But I'll manage. Anyways, so Formula One 2023 was back. And yeah, the season testing was in Bahrain this time around. Generally, it's a different country. And then you go to the racing track, which generally tends to be Bahrain as of late, right? The first race of the season. But the testing was done in Bahrain, and then the race took place in Bahrain. The race weekend was, we started from 3rd of March to the 5th of March. So it was a fun race weekend, and the qualifiers took place on the 4th of March. Lots of questions going into the season. Red Bull were quite dominant at the end of last season, right? So they were able to do, the questions was, was Red Bull still the team to beat? Mercedes almost took the constructor second place from Ferrari. Okay. Right? So the question was Mercedes going to be the second fastest team, or were they going to challenge Red Bull? So that was another interesting one. What is going to happen with Ferrari? Because Ferrari is the biggest team in Formula One, right? And if there is any hope or any expectation that Ferrari can win a few races, there are expectations to win the season. Last season, there were massive expectations, and there were talks coming out of the week's testing that Ferrari still has a good car. So everyone was like, are Ferrari going to be the one that's going to be challenging Red Bull? Is it just going to be the three horses races again?
The horses being?
Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes, okay. Right? So lots of question going in. And even in testing, right? Some of the teams, the question coming out was who was sandbagging, who was showing the real thing, And yeah, some of the questions answered, some of the questions still will go on as the season progresses, So let's go into it. So the qualifiers took place on the 4th of March, and yes, Q1 was kind of an interesting one because everyone's eyes was on it, right? This is where now the metals are going to be tested. Who's going to be the fastest in one lap, right? And surprisingly, Ferrari and Mercedes were first. So it was Ferrari with Carlos Sainz, then Mercedes with George Russell, and then Charles Leclerc, right? So this is just Q1. And everyone's like, oh, no Red Bull in the top three. Interesting, huh? So maybe everyone's got a good car. Mercedes, Ferrari, and even Red Bull. So what's going to be? And then we go into Q2. Of course, Max Verstappen, Red Bull, they come back. Then you see that it's, okay, first Charles Leclerc, but not too far behind Max Verstappen, just 0.3 off. But this is still Q2, so you don't know what's going to happen. And then comes in George Russell, just 1/100th, 300ths of a second behind Max Verstappen. So it was 1 minute 30 seconds, 5:03 for Max Verstappen. And for George Russell, it was 1 minute 30 seconds, 5:07. Right? So everyone's like, oh, Mercedes showing shit. It's going to be an interesting season. And then comes Q3, right? And everyone's like, what's going to happen? Ferrari, who's going to be? Charles Leclerc, by the way, really good with qualifiers. George Russell, really good with qualifiers, right? One lap single pace racing. The only team to be sub 130 was Red Bull by a margin. You know what I mean? And then it was Ferrari, and then it was Aston Martin out of all of the teams.
Are Aston Martin that big of a dog in the game?
They weren't, but that's why the surprise, right? Aston Martin and Mercedes share the same engine, right? Mercedes took a different approach to building their car. Regulation changed last year. Everyone had like changed the way they were gonna build their cars. Red Bull, like 9 out of the 10 teams built a car in a similar facet like Red Bull, high downforce and somewhat slow on the straights. Mercedes went the other approach. They went low downforce, and then they were bad in the corners, but they were supposed to be really good in the straights. But the car mechanics didn't seem to turn out as they hoped. And Aston Martin, though they take some of the parts from Mercedes and the engine from Mercedes, build their car like Red Bull,
Okay.
right? And last season, Aston Martin was supposed to be 7th or 8th. And this season, somehow, all of a sudden, they were in front of Mercedes in Q3, 5th, Fernando Alonso. Oh my days. And Carlos Sainz was injured. So, not Lance Stroll. He was injured, So you didn't know whether his performance was what was going to be, or like next time around he would perform more better and challenge Fernando Alonso. But anyways, it looked like Aston Martin were in the game, at least for a single round pace. And at the end of qualifier 1, Max Verstappen was top of the table. Qualifier 3, sorry. Sergio Perez was 2nd, Charles Leclerc 3rd, Carlos Sainz 4th, Fernando Alonso, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Nico Hulkenberg. And like you can see from the qualifier results, for the reference picture is going to be somewhere. Yeah, so as you can see from that, not a lot of different teams there, right? Like Red Bull, both cars, Ferraris, both cars, Mercedes, both cars, Aston Martin's, both cars. So that's like 8 teams already done. Alpine and Haas were the only other team to be in the top, 10, right? And now, next day comes in, right? And of course, the goosebumps are ready to set as soon as David Coffey goes, lights out and away we go. Oh my days. Lap 1 was kind of interesting as well. Lots of people switching position. Leclerc gained a position. Perez was down a position. Sainz stayed the same. Hamilton up 2, right? Aston Martin, like I said, they showed that they could do something in a single pace race, right? But somehow, Mercedes, both were in front of Aston Martin, and both of the Aston Martins, right? So it was like, maybe race pace is different, Aston Martin won't be able to do this, or that's not going to happen, this, that, and all. And I'm not going to take you guys through all the race and all that, and I don't want to bore Ashwal as well. By the way, out of the two of us, I'm the Formula 1 fan, right? So I don't want to stretch it too long, but I'll go with some of the highlights of the races. Ferrari is as Ferrari does, and Ferrari does what? Very good? DNFs. Charles Leclerc out of the race. I think 10 laps left in the race, and somehow mechanical failure. Charles Leclerc, a lot of people thought this season is going to be Charles' season.
What is his age?
He is 25, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, not a lot older than Max Verstappen. These are like young racers, So that was that for Ferrari. Carlos Sainz, I think he finished 4th, right? So kind of a decent result for Ferrari, but just one car finished. So that means they're already lagging behind in the Constructor Championship, right? Then the highlight of the race was Fernando Alonso. This guy is 42 years old, right? He had left Formula 1 once already at the age of 36 or something, and then he came back 2 seasons ago. And for some reason, doesn't seem to look like this guy has aged. He did a pretty decent job last season as well. He had a lot of reliability issues when he was with AlphaTauri, but this season he did amazing. 99th podium finish of his career, and the oldest person to stand on a podium, right? So that is something incredible.
So what does he race for?
The Aston Martin.
Oh, the green.
The green outfits, right? So that was really astonishing. He finished 3rd, by the way. He was able to. So at the start of the race, in lap 1, his own teammate kind of hit him at the back. So that's why the Mercedes were able to overtake both the Aston Martins, right? And his teammate is Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll's father, Lawrence Stroll, is the owner of Aston Martin racing team.
Oh.
Right? So Fernando couldn't be angry, so he had to give him kudos anyways. But they both did a very stellar job at the end of the race. Fernando finishing 3rd. If he had a little bit more time, I think he could have challenged for 1st or 2nd, but the start of the race was so bad for him that and luckily he did touch other cars multiple times, but somehow no punctures, no mishap to these cars or anything. So it was also lucky. But Alonso's 99th podium finish. Lance Stroll, 6th. He had a major crash. He was riding his bike to the testing facility and he crashed his bike and he had to get his hand fixed, which I think he has a iron plate. Yeah, he broke his hand, few injuries on the ribs, few injuries on the leg, like broken injuries, not complex fractures, but fractures for sure. And still he was able to finish 6th. So you can see the car is crazy, right? Like because there are videos of him trying to turn the steering wheel, but it's so painful for him that he leaves the hand and he's pushing it that way, right? So you can see that like it was, and there were questions raised that like was it safety?
Yeah, exactly. Don't you have to be like fit, medically fit?
And not just him, for other drivers as well. What if like when he was trying to do the whole turn, his hand snaps? Right, and then the car just fizzles out. So like there could be multiple car in an accident, So the whole safety protocol thing was up in the air as well. But Aston looks genuinely fast this season. Red Bull, of course, the best of the bunch, and Mercedes seemed like they were the 4th fastest car on the grid, right? So which was like okay,
Not a usual
this
sight.
is a sobering reality. And after the race finished, the team principal Toto Wolff was kind of like, okay, maybe we might have taken a wrong approach to the whole racing, like the build of the car. Maybe we need to scrap this and go with a different design. But since last season, we knew that from this season on, there's going to be a cost cap, 140 million. No other team can spend more than that. But previous years or prior, other teams could spend up to 300, 500. Like there was no cost cap. So you knew that like either it was going to be Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull because these were the most like rich teams, right? But this season, everyone's on the same page. So that means Merc, if they scrap the design, by the time they'll be okay with the car, it'll be end of the season, and they'll probably end up like 7th, 8th. So grim look for Mercedes. I have to give shout out to Valtteri Bottas and Alexander Albon. Valtteri Bottas started 12th in the race, ended up finishing 8th, which was a good show for Valtteri Bottas. And for Alex Albon, he finished 15th. He started 15th, but ended up finishing 10th, right? Williams was a question mark. And not just that, the Williams driver themselves, in the pre-race interviews, they were saying that we might be the slowest car on the grid.
But
Somehow Alex Albon was able to be in the top 10, and then the fun part about Formula One is that like even a single point. So like if you finish 10th, you just get 1 point. But that point always matters because like the last 2-3 teams are fighting for those 2-3 points, right? And they were not going to get those points every race. So that means every point counts. And in the first race of the season, they were able to score a point. So it's going to be fun to see where Williams lands. But it did not look like Williams. In Alexander Albon's hand, it did not look like Williams was the slowest car in the grid. The other fun thing about this season and the regulation change was 7 different teams were in the top 10. Right?
oh yeah,
Yeah. So it's not very common for that to happen. Especially in the hybrid era and all that. Like the last 10 years, 12 years, we've seen like a team just take it, or like 3 teams or 2 teams competing for it. And then finally 1 team takes it. But this time around in the first race, we saw 7 different outfits in the top 10, which was like, I think the regulation change is going to help. And then the budget cap is going to help, because now everyone's on the same like standings. And I will also have to mention that Bahrain is an outlier track. It's not like other tracks, it's a very unique track. So that's why we cannot take all of the results to heart because like I said, right, like some cars have more downforce, some cars have less downforce and all that. So even Williams finishing 10th in this race might be a miss, like a hit, but like other races they might miss.
So it depends on the track.
Yeah. So and then there are other tracks like there are 23 races now, 22, but like so 15 tracks might be fairly similar.
Okay.
Right, in the sense that like there might be long corners and then there might be short corners and then like long straights and all that. So the similarities support those cars. Like so, if you have a good car in one of those kind of track, then you know that you're going to have a good car for the 15 tracks. And then the other like 7, you will be like, okay, maybe we need to do this, or maybe we need to fix this or fix that, maybe change the wing a little bit, maybe raise the angle and all that. So you have to play with the car. But for those 15 races, you can be like, okay, maybe we just need to do a little bit of tweaking, but we're going to be pretty fine, right? And then like if I can produce this kind of result in this track, then on the other 15, I should be, at least for the mean, in average, I should produce this kind of a result, right? But Bahrain is an outlier, so we need to be a little bit tentative about how crazy we go with this. But the other foolish thing is, after such an incredible race weekend, this is the first time we're having 2 weeks off. 2 weeks off. So that means everyone's going to go crazy with these numbers and these like positions and all that, right? Like everyone's like, Aston Martin's are they going to be the second best car, or are they going to beat Red Bull? And I'm like, yo, bro, just chill. It's an outlier track, you know? And then someone else is like, Charles Leclerc's luck is in the dump. Max Verstappen lost his first race last season. He DNF. Second race, DNF. Still won the championship. And not just that, there's a curse going on, right? For the past 7 years, whoever wins the first race does not win the championship. Max Verstappen won the first race.
So he broke the curse?
We don't know. We'll know at the end of the season if he wins the championship or not. But if we follow the curse, then there are chances for other drivers to win.
Okay.
Right? So that's going to be a fun one. But now, this is the final point I'm going to make, and then I'll talk about the standings and we'll end the episode. The most hilarious thing I've ever seen in a Formula One race took place in Bahrain. And for the people that are following, I think they know. Esteban Ocon. What the hell happened there? Oh my God, this was failure on all fronts. And not just that, Esteban Ocon did not even finish the race, but his teammate, Pierre Gasly, was in the top 10. You know, so they have got a car that can perform. So, okay, let me take you through what happened with Esteban Ocon, right? At the start of the race, every car has to slot into a grid place, right? Esteban Ocon, and it's clearly defined. And if you go a little bit further ahead of the grid place, then you are going to get a penalty irrespective of what, right? And it's going to be a 5-second penalty. So Esteban Ocon was not able to park his car properly in the grid place. So he was going to get a 5-second penalty no matter what, right? Fine, that's fine. But he was going to serve the 5-second penalty whenever his pit time came, right? So goes on with the race. So far, nothing's gone bad. 5-second penalty, it's okay. You know, first penalty, it's fine. Nothing's wrong. Continues with the race, and then comes in to serve the 5-second penalty, right? Stops in the pit stop, and then the mechanic. So there is a person timing the 5 seconds. For the 5 seconds, he just needs to be still in the pit stop. No mechanic can touch the car.
Okay.
Right? And once the 5-second finishes, now finally they can change the tires and everything. But the mechanic, fractions, right? Like this is what Formula One's all about. 4.6 seconds in, one of the mechanic kind of slips and touches the car. Right? But it doesn't seem like a big deal at that point. And then like Esteban Ocon goes out of the track, everything's fine. And all of a sudden his team principal comes on the radio and he's like, Esteban, we did not serve the time penalty properly. And now we have been given a 10 seconds penalty. Right? And Esteban's going crazy. He's like, what the hell? You know, this is so crazy. I've been doing this way for my ages, like all my life. How can I be serving this penalty, that penalty, this, whatever, starts going crazy, right? Has to come into the pit either way. Like this is the rule by the FIA. So he comes into the pit, and then what happens is, so like depending on the track, there's a pit limit, right? Like so once you enter the pit, you have to be no more than 80 kilometers in some, and in some it's 60 kilometers, right? He's 80.1, right? At the braking zone. So that means he's coming in to serve a penalty, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? A 10 seconds penalty. Comes in, serves the 10 seconds penalty, but because this is not known, right? He serves the 10 second penalty. For him and the team, it's like, finally, all the penalties gone. Let's go back out in the track. Let's go do our thing. Now we can focus on the race, right? Then again, the FIA contacts the team, and then the team principal comes on and he's like, Esteban, we need to serve another time penalty. Oh my God. Yeah, I think he served like 35 seconds worth of time penalty. That's like half a lap.
31?
Yeah, 35.
35 seconds.
Yes. And then he had to serve another penalty. And the funniest thing to end the whole thing, somehow the car breaks down. He's not even able to finish the race. DNF for Esteban Ocon,
A bad day.
So yeah, it was such a bad day, and it looks so unprofessional. But that's how the whole thing panned out. And now I'll give you the top 10. Of course, who else could it be? Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, 1 and 2. 25 points for Max Verstappen, 18 points for Sergio Perez. Constructors, they're already in a lead. Not just that, they had a pretty good lead. Even Sergio Perez was 11 seconds lead. And then Max Verstappen, I think Max Verstappen almost had like 30, 40 seconds lead. So you knew that like neither of the cars were pushing to their limits. So we still haven't seen Red Bull going all out in a race, right? So we still don't know the potential of this car. So this car could be a banger, and I think this could be a very boring season for the first and second place. It could be Max and Sergio as a whole. But third place, Fernando Alonso, 99th podium, right? So that was a good finish for Aston Martin. Fourth was Ferrari. Questions was that will Aston Martin be able to finish? Like, was their qualifier pace and race pace the same? And I think it was proved that like Aston Martin's race pace is also pretty good because they were able to catch Ferrari, not just catch Ferrari, overtake them. For Charles, of course, DNF, so that helped. But fifth, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. Sixth was Lance Stroll, Aston Martin again. Seventh was George Russell. And this is interesting. Lance Stroll was hurt, right? And Lance Stroll was behind George Russell at the start of the race, if you remember when I said that like both Mercedes were in front of the Aston Martins, right? But Lance Stroll was able to catch up to the Mercedes easily and overtake him. So that means that like Aston Martin, if Lance Stroll is also fit, could easily outmaneuver Mercedes. So that means Mercedes could be the fourth quickest car in the grid. And at the end of last season, they were like the second fastest team in the grid. So this is a massive step down for Mercedes. And me being a massive Toto Wolff's fan and Lewis Hamilton's fan. Toto Wolff is the team principal of Mercedes, by the way. So it was kind of disheartening to see, but not as much as some of the Ferrari fanboys for Charles Leclerc. But anyways, if Charles Leclerc wins, I'm up for it either way. But seventh was George Russell. Eighth, Valtteri Bottas. Of course, love him. He was in Mercedes. Number 9 was Pierre Gasly. What a showing for Pierre Gasly and his counterpart Esteban Ocon. We just heard the hilarious story.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then for 10th, Alexander Albon. And again, people might hype it up. People might go crazy about all of these things. But like I said, this is an outlier track. This is a different setup to most of the tracks. And the other thing was the testing was done on this track. So the team could calibrate their car for the track, So we're still yet to find out what's going to happen. I think this week we're back on the... this week? Oh, next week. Oh, okay. That's my disappointment for there not being a Formula One this week. But anyways, that's pretty much the end of Formula One saga. And I am trying to get Oswald more involved into Formula One. For some reason, he doesn't like it. It's so nerdy, by the way. I get it. But yeah, once you get into it, you get into it.
I am trying to watch that Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
Trying to get into it. Yeah.
Yeah, Drive to Survive also kind of an okay season, better than the last couple of seasons. I did enjoy it, but of course, Drive to Survive is what Drive to Survive does, just like Ferrari. So they do mince word and do all these different things. But I think that's pretty much it. Anything else, Oswald, do you want to add?
Yeah, pretty much interesting events, that panned out in sporting world, in F1 and in the football world, and pretty much, yeah.
And we will try to keep the sporting segment a little bit different. I think this time around, we've gone a lot longer than I anticipated.
Yeah.
But I think we'll also try to cover like a few different sports, across the board, because I think that would be a lot more fun. And bro, we almost forgot. Props to Nepal's cricket team. They won against Papua New Guinea and UAE significantly. And if they win the next one, they will be qualified. They will face teams for qualifiers of the T20 World Cup.
The World Cup, yeah.
Right? That could be something different. I think we'll try to go to see the match tomorrow. I think it should be
they've got it tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Tomorrow being Thursday, and the video will come out on Thursday. So for the people that are confused, intentional. But anyways, any final words?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, again, congratulations, and we wish the Nepal team all the best.
Yeah. All the best, and peace!